So what Mark just talked about is obviously the general economics. We were going to look at the Annual Trends Report, which is a report that we publish each year. So this is the 4th year that we've done this. And what the Annual Trends Report uses is our clients' data, so you guys, and we look at the revenue trends for the consumers within the home shopping market to draw comparisons at a home shopping level, but also at a subcategory level. So I'm just going to go through and talk to you about some of the key highlights. I'm not going into a lot of detail, as Lara mentioned, because it's not really my strength. But one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to look at the report in your own time and pick out the salient points you think actually are more relevant to your business. So you've all got a copy of the Annual Trends Report on your desk. Like I said, this is the 4th year that we've done it. Each year it does evolve slightly and get more and more encompassing. And so we've had more third parties get involved this year to give a little more of a contextualised look actually at how 2013 performed. But just to clarify, this is 2013 compared to 2012. So I'm just going to talk to you about how the report was compiled. As I said, the home shopping market is an overview. Acorn is a new section for us this year. The subcategories, email trends, another new area for us this year, and then catalogue trends. So first off, how was the report compiled? So as Lara mentioned, we have over 500 brands that contribute data into the Abacus Alliance. And then we look at the transactional activity across all of those brands. But what we want to make sure is that we've got a full coverage over the report period to be able to analyse the transactional trends for the consumers. So really, to qualify for the report, the brands that are in the Annual Trends Report were actively trading throughout 2012 and 2013, provided a full update. As I mentioned, transactions alone might not have given a full view of how 2013 performed. So we've partnered with a couple of companies to add some different levels. So Step Solutions, who provided the consumer indicators information. So Catalogue for Business, effectively, Ian Simpson gave us access to the report they run on the role of the catalogue in the multi-channel marketing space. The DMA created an email trends report that we've included. Ubiquity, so they track the mail volumes for the home shopping market. So we've included that to provide some parallel between marketing activity from a mailing perspective and the revenue trends. CACI, who provided Acorn and lifestyle and demographic profiles, again at home shopping level and then within the subcategories. And then industry interviews from some of the guys in the room, so I'll highlight a couple of those too. Mark Pragnall's published a one-pager in there, which is a really useful review, again, similar to the stuff you've heard today about why 2013 performed as it did. Okay, so we hold data at category level at Abacus. There's 21 merchandise categories, but for the purposes of the report, we grouped them up into macro categories because we didn't want to have every single category covered because there'll be a lot of information coming through. So we created 6 macro categories. So beauty and health, clothing, gardening, generalist retail, gifts, gadgets and entertainment, home interiors and household goods. Clothing though is a huge category for us. So we then created 4 subcategories, and I won't go into those now, but they are in the report. So if you want to look at contemporary clothing, mid-market, mature, or high-end, that's in the report. Okay, so quite a lot going on here, so I'm just going to sort of introduce the report itself. So this report itself looks at revenue and mailing volumes 2012 to 2013. The grey bars are 2012, and the orange bars are 2013. Grey lines are mailing volumes for 2012, orange lines are 2013. Similarly to what Mark uses, we use indices rather than actual revenue figures. It provides a much better month-on-month, season-by-season or annual comparison. And the way we do that is to divide up the 24 months we've done the comparison by the total revenue. Obviously that gives the indices, which is the sort of index, which is the red line. So then you can compare whether you're over or above. And one of the questions always get asked, does this report include, or the figures include VAT and delivery? Yes, it does. And so our clients provide us a full transactional spend in the data updates we get. So what the consumer actually spends for the products, which obviously includes VAT and postage and packaging. So a couple of key highlights. You can see that the 2 kind of peaks in the year, and the revenue kind of follows that. a relatively modest start to the year. Again, similar to what Mark was saying, but it certainly picks up towards the second half. So revenue, as we saw it in the home shopping market, grew 10.2% over the year, and mailing volumes as a whole were up 7%. So it's quite a good story there. Again, sort of particularly in Q2, with some peaks kind of around sort of September and October. So you saw a similar version of this report from the Office of National Statistics in Mark's presentation. It's really just highlighting the real performance from you guys, the home shopping players that had 17.5% growth, took the market to about 23 billion, so it's in terms of revenues, 23 billion pounds. The increase in terms of the market share against other retailers, so a lot of these in here are stores, so clothing stores, department stores, food stores, household goods stores. Your market share increased from 6.4% to 7.3%, so it's a growing market. What the Office of National Statistics are predicting that this is going to continue. The reliance on internet, though, in this figure is getting more and more. There's a huge increase in the amount of revenue that comes into this non-store retail that's reliant on on internet. And then just one thing I thought I'd touch on, while he's here, we're going to certainly use him. He said you have to go back until 2007 before you see 4 consecutive quarters of growth. So actually last year has lots of good things to talk about in terms of the home shopping space, but generally. So I think consumer confidence will certainly start to pick up. So Acorn Profiles, this is the new inclusion this year for the report, and it uses CACI data, so it's kind of lifestyle and demographic information. And it groups consumers into 5 buckets. So affluent achievers, rising prosperity, comfortable communities, financially stretched, and urban adversity. So obviously at the top you've got the most financially successful, those that live in the biggest houses, the nice parts of the country, down to those that live below the poverty line in more deprived areas of the country. So what we did is look at how they behaved throughout 2012 and 2013. It's a bit of a busy report, but I wanted to put it up here purely because the analyst who said, when he was interpreting this report, the key thing to remember is that the consumers in the urban adversity sector, so the lower end, change their spending habits more than those in the affluent achiever space. So his analogy was, if you're in the affluent achievers category and you spent 50 grand on a Porsche in 2012, you'd be quite happy to spend 50 grand on your Porsche in 2013. But if you're in urban adversity and you spent £5 on sausage rolls in 2012, you'd be quite happy to spend £10 on those sausage rolls in 2013. So the relative change is much bigger within that consumer group. So it's just saying that maybe they're affected by the press a little bit more, but certainly they change their spending patterns for that year. Okay, so then we start going into the subcategories, and so I won't go into all of them, just a couple of ones that I thought were interesting, because particularly the clothing, it had a really stellar year last year. It grew continually for the last 4 years, and you'll see this in the report, and there'll be rationales behind why that happened, but a really good success story. Revenue was higher in every month when compared to 2012. Again, the first quarter slightly subdued. Maybe that's piggybacking on the back of 2012, 2012 when it was slightly a slower close to the year, but really did ramp up in Q2, 14.5% increase by, and 15.5% in Q3. So a really good finish to the year for the clothing category. AOV actually, a slight decline. It did change by about 2.7%. So that actually was quite a big change in 2012 because there was a big growth in AOV in 2012. Interestingly, over the course of that period, mailing volumes were up. Just actually, I forgot to mention on the mailing volume. So Ubiquity provide this mailing volume. It's only the data that we have for the clients. Sorry, I'll start again. It's the clients who contributed data into the analysis who we've got the mailing trends for. So it is relative. So we haven't just done a blanket mail volume. If the client's data is included, we have the mail volumes, it's included. So we haven't got it for all categories, but where it is available, we've included it. So it does give a relative sense of how the mailing volumes and the revenue trends behaved. Just a couple of key highlights on the 4 subcategories though. So contemporary was the real win within the subcategory. So contemporary would be the slightly more expensive items than mid-market. So you'll find them in the high street, you'll find them online in concessions. They had a really strong year, 25% growth, and growth in 10 other months. AOV, in contrast, was fairly stable. High-end was a bit of a change for us, we noticed in 2013, where a lot of consumers perhaps moved away in 2012 to mid-market, certainly coming back into purchasing in high-end. So although AOV was down, the subcategory was up 8.6%. Direct mail volumes, interestingly, were down. Mature, so obviously those serving the older market, sales grew 10%, growth in 10 months again, AOV down, mail volume slightly down, and mid-market finally 9.3% growth. One of the things we noticed that where AOV is down but revenue is up, it's kind of indicating that growth has come from more consumers coming into the market rather than obviously spending more per transaction. So it's up to you how you determine whether that's a success or not from an AOV perspective. And we've heard gardening hugely affected by the weather. So obviously those in the gardening category, you know that the two big seasons are the springs and the autumns. I think with the really cold finish to start of 2013 right into March, it really had an impact on the category. And the long hot summer certainly had an impact on consumers' willingness to spend and invest in their autumn planting. But anecdotally, although the first quarter was low, it certainly did pick up in Q2. And I think gardeners actually felt that, or gardening retailers felt that actually by the half-year point, they were actually where they expected to be. So it was looking quite good by sort of May, June time. And then obviously that long hot summer extended into autumn, and the ground was a bit hard, so those autumn gardeners weren't perhaps doing anything anymore. So just a couple of key points. There was a good Q2, but obviously I said decline overall, AOV stable, and mail volumes down. I just wanted to put a little quote from Mark Tiverton. So he works for Thompson and Morgan, and he noticed a slight change in the way that his consumers interact with their business. So consumers are buying more, and obviously they target the elder market. They just find their consumers out of the elder market. Actually, they're now buying on tablets. So the Silver Surfers are certainly making a prominence for his business. Gifts, gadgets, and entertainment. Another success story. They've had year-on-year growth for the last 3 years. And the trends certainly follow 2012, but again, growth in most of the months. Unsurprisingly, the bias is towards the end of the year when a lot of the businesses make most of their money. AOV was up 10.4%. Interestingly, there's a slight dip, and this is talked about in the report, in the November-December mailings. So I guess it's working out really how marketers do attack those last 3 weeks of Christmas. Can they exploit those kind of late Christmas shopping, but also deliver and get the goods out with all the adverse weather they perhaps had in 2012? But again, I'll leave you to make up your own analysis around that. Just a couple of quotes. So a couple of new kind of changes that Gareth from Silver by Mail noticed. So the Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So there's perhaps new trends that are making quite an impact on his business. And Mark Wilby from Nauticalia, who we'll hear from shortly, noticed that actually there's a slight change in the way that he needs to communicate with their customers and the importance of using search as a way to optimise the way consumers interact with Nauticalia. This is the last of the subcategories. So home interiors, household goods, a really good year. This is the 4th year in a row that they've seen sales growth. There was growth in every month and a very, very strong Q4. Mailing volumes throughout the period rose 6.7 and most notably in Q3, so quite a big change there with some peaks in August and October. It does seem that this is perhaps linked to the housing market. And again, Mark mentioned earlier, so consumers perhaps more at ease spending more money on bigger ticket and more regular purchases, safe in the knowledge that their home is worth more, or it's at least stable. And a couple of highlights we've talked about. The sales increase was 11.6%, AOV was up 3%, which actually is in contrast to 2012. It's a real improvement because 2012 actually did see a decline. So a really good year for the home interiors category. maybe because the mail volume's increased. Robert, so he's in the Annual Trends Report. He was saying that actually they're trying to squeeze a lot more out of their existing customers, and email became a big channel for them and remains a focus for this year. But I said he's in the report to read a little bit more about what his business did. So that's the subcategories. A new first again for this year is email trends. So this information is provided to us from the Direct Marketing Association, and they create the National Client Email Report. And the idea of this report is to look at how email, when it's combined with another marketing tactic, can have an impact on the overall return on investment from the marketing campaign. In general, what it's saying that email is still a really, really important channel, and it's expected that will grow. One of the things I wanted to highlight is direct mail, out of all the other marketing tactics, when combined with email, had the biggest increase on the return on investment from an email campaign. And the other points that they talked about was actually the focus on how you use email to measure success is changing. So it's maybe no longer about purchase and revenue, more about brand awareness and consumer engagement. So certainly food for thought for when you're looking at how you use email and how you measure email. And then the catalogue trends. So this is the importance of catalogues in marketing campaigns. It does seem that it is here to stay, that consumers businesses get a lot of revenue from using catalogue to support online traffic, to support online sales. So a couple of quotes there. The report found actually that catalogue is a very useful channel, which it goes without saying. But again, the whole article is in the report. So that's the whistle-stop tour of the Annual Trends Report. As I said, I'd encourage you to read it because a lot of work has gone into it. We spent a lot of time getting all the data together, analysing it, compiling it, configuring it, putting it into a format that's very easy to see. Slightly different format and a lot more content this year. But we're really happy to do it because we know that there's a demand from the market for information that really is specific to where you guys sit. So although there's a lot of work, we're happy to do it. And we really hope that you find abilities to draw some comparisons when reviewing your business to last year against the market, but also at the subcategory level when you're drawing conclusions about perhaps what you might want to do for this year. So use it as you wish. You will find your account manager will be talking to you a little bit more about that in your meetings with them. That kind of wraps up what I wanted to do. I just wanted to thank actually all the members who contributed their data into the pool, because without it, it's not Abacus's data, it's your data. So thank you very much. And also to the contributors who added their part, so the ubiquities, the DMAs, catalogues for business, and the set solutions. So, all that information is really vital to giving it a thorough view of the market. So thanks to everyone. And any questions, the analyst who compiled the report is in the room, so I'd encourage you to direct your questions to him. But if there is any now, I'm happy to field them.
It's probably a really stupid question, but what is non-store?
So that's mail order, internet. So a business without a bricks and mortar store. I'm glad you asked that one because I could answer that one. Okay, thank you. So then over to Christian.